This is the Boys Podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Season 4, Episode 5, Beware the Jabberwock, my son.
Gave him the V? Yeah, I thought that's what you wanted. It fell out of your coat. I don't understand. Why did you bring it if you didn't want to use it?
Look, I wanted to. I did. But then I didn't. Okay, it's just that I've seen that shit go wrong so many times.
Well, it's got to go right sometimes, right? I mean, otherwise there wouldn't be any soups.
Welcome back, fellow boys and girls, to our 5th podcast episode from Season 4 of The Boys. This is Episode 5, Beware of the Jabberwock, my son. I am one of your hosts, John, and we, of course, I must warn you of my two Jabberwocky hosts as well.
Thanks. I'm one of your other hosts, Darick.
Walkie jockey, walkie hockey, ho 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 ho. I sound like basically Jabba the Hutt when you say that. Oh, Jabberwocky. Ho, ho, ho,
Yes.
Why Jabba the Hutt went French at the end there?
I have no idea.
You're never gonna know. Secretly, he's a bit French.
He might be, yeah. Kind of a snail out of his shell in
Yeah.
garlic.
Maybe.
Escargot.
Yeah,
Escargot. Tatooine go.
That's a really weird aside to get to in the show. I know there's definitely references to Disney in this episode, so I guess that's the part of the reason why Disney's on your mind.
It might be, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Since we should probably mention, we were supposed to be covering Star Wars: The Acolyte. We've mentioned in our Facebook group that we're not, unfortunately, able to fit it into our schedule at the moment. It's 3 episodes into The Acolyte, and there's loads to cover in The Boys at the moment, and we don't have as much time at this time of the year as we thought we would. So we were hoping to do a wrap-up of Star Wars Acolyte after the show finishes. Once it finishes, I think it's 5 episodes or 6 episodes. Once that finishes up, we'll hopefully come back and have a chat about all the feedback that you guys have been sending in to us on Star Wars: The Acolyte and your thoughts on it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, we're certainly watching it, but it's just timing wise for being able to do podcasts, it's just not working out. And also, we were kind of put on the back foot by the fact that we were on holiday when it came out.
Yeah. But we hope you're enjoying that, and we hope you're enjoying The Boys Season 4 as well.
Yeah. Remember, fellow boys and girls, if you are new to the podcast, or even if you are a well-worn fellow industrialist and boy and girl, just as a reminder, you can head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to any boys or soup podcast player of your choice. You can also head on over there to leave a voicemail for feedback, as well as sending in your thoughts, theories, observations, or comments by email to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And of course, you can pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where you can, again, leave any thoughts on the spoiler posts that we put up there on each and every episode of The Boys. Whilst I'm in the rhythm, it is a reminder of our continuing pub quiz for Season 4, which we will have our next question 5, from this season. So gather together all of the answers as we go through each episode of The Boys this season, and send them into feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com to be in with a chance of getting your hands on some The Boys goodies.
Yeah, absolutely. Just send in your answers at the end of the season. After all 8 episodes have been released, when we do our wrap-up podcast, we will be announcing the winner of the pub quiz.
Yep, just make sure they're the right answers. You can send in the wrong answers if you want, but just
right answers are always good. Then you're in with a chance.
Yes,
we will be checking.
Yeah. With all that said and done, should we jump into our spoiler-filled discussion for this episode with episode details from Darick? Do you want to tell us who gave us what, where, when, and how?
Absolutely. Once again, showrunner for the show is Eric Kripke. This is based on the comic book series by Garth, Ennis, and Darick Robertson. The executive producers of the show are Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, and this episode was written by Judalina Neira. She is a producer on The Boys. This is her first writing credit for the show, but she was involved in over 30 episodes of the CW superhero show The Flash as well. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Give that person a medal.
Yeah, she deserves it.
Yeah. And, I don't know, a vineyard as well. I think definitely needs it after that.
Now remember, The Flash is 22 episode seasons, so 30 episodes is only about a season and a half of the 25 season
well,
show.
That's even more so. Which season did they come in on? Because first season I liked.
Yeah.
First
like
couple,
with all the
first
CW
couple were okay.
Yeah, like with most of the CW's superhero shows, I really enjoyed the first two, and then they just kind of like descended into the usual tropes of, my mother was an alcoholic, my father was a drug addict, and
now I'm a superhero.
Yeah.
Wait, that's The Boys.
I know, but it's just done better. Oops.
Well, you can find that out on imdb.com. I do know, but I'm not going to tell you, given your responses to...
No.
So the episode itself was directed by Shana Stein. She directed the penultimate episode of Gen V season 1 as well. So interesting because there's some Gen V connections in this episode too.
Yeah, certainly are. Yeah.
Some very blatant ones, a lot more than just a quick still in the last episode. So a lot more connections. In this
or
episode.
A tenuous theory like you had as well.
It's a very tenuous theory, I'm sure. Kind of a bloodline theory, I guess. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for The Boys Season 4, Episode 5, Beware the Jabberwock, my son?
Sure. It's the annual V52 Expo, powered by fans, for fans, where superfans get a glimpse at Vought's up-and-coming slate of exciting new superhero films and TV projects. But the backstage drama is the main event, as we glimpse the terrifying influence Homelander is having on Ryan. Meanwhile, Huey helps his father find peace by letting him go, and A-Train gets nervous as Sister Sage hunts for the leak inside Vought Tower. Butcher and the boys team up with two very unlikely allies to search for a virus that could be the key to stopping Homelander once and for all.
Yes, and that's the virus from Gen V that we were talking about. That's the direct
is.
Connection into The Boys Season 4. Like we were told when we were covering Season 1 of Gen V that would connect directly into The Boys Season 4. So, living up to that promise.
Yeah, it will also have Tech Knight in here
yes, you do.
as well. So loads of connections here with Gen V.
Absolutely. And also, this is the first episode I certainly felt targeted in here with V52, like the D23 Expo that we get excited about every year, sharing all the slate of upcoming movies and TV shows in the future phases from 9 to 17.
That was hilarious. That was the funniest moment. Absolutely loved it.
I will actually see that and go, the funniest moment was Tech Knight going, well, we haven't had a Tech Knight film in over a year, so you know what that means? We're rebooting. And I'm like, oh, damn.
Yes, the Tech Knight, clearly a dig at the Batman, even calls out that it's going to have lots of Nirvana music in it and a 12-minute scene all in complete darkness as the audience applaud and give their approval for the new direction of the reboot of Tech Knight. I think it's a weird one. We were talking about it when Tech Knight appeared in Gen V, that he's kind of the Batman or Iron Man stand-in for the Boys universe. Very, very specifically called out here that he is the Batman. That's the one they're basing it on here.
Or the perverted Hercule Poirot.
Kind of.
I guess.
I think they were just taking their inspiration from comics, though, John.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I doubt they've read that much Agatha Christie.
But I'm sure. So. Yeah. Okay, Miss Marple then.
Okay, perverted Miss Marple. Will we get into our Boys 7 and outstanding moments from the episode, guys?
Just do it.
Yes, absolutely. Let us get on with our Boys moments from this episode.
Oi.
John, do you want to kick us off with your Boys moment for the episode?
Yeah, it's just the arc of Hugh Sr. through this episode, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we saw that Huey's mom had given his dad Compound V there through the drip, and ultimately we see here that Hugh Senior is really not entirely sure what's happened. You know, he's a little bit discombobulated in a sense, but it's just as, you know, we go through this episode, you know, we see him kind of starting to get forgetful and not realizing that Daphne has left the room, and then, you know, saying, well, was Daphne?
Yeah.
And as this episode goes on, then we see the manifestation of the powers of the V compound taking effect on Huey's dad, and it just gets really, really horrendous. And it's more because, like, in and of itself, the powers are really cool. It's like he can phase through solid matter, which actually, again, we saw, you know, kids in Gen V being able to pass through the walls, but this is almost like the Flash type of where he sort of oscillates and vibrates at the frequency where he can pass through solid matter, which leads to like, I think, to me, sort of a very memorable scene of him running through the walls and then stopping in the middle of someone's bed with the patient in the bed, so that when he then solidifies again, there's just this huge, all the guts, this explosion of blood as this guy is killed. But again, it seems to come with almost a temper, though, as well, or just a frustration, because yes, he's doing this, but he's not understanding where he is, what time period it is. It almost felt slightly like, is he losing his memory, like a dementia type thing? Because, you know, he's remembering Huey as an 11-year-old looking for toys. He's remembering Daphne, you know, very soon after she had left him, and the anger sort of around that, and then not knowing where he is. And it sort of manifesting in this really sort of, almost like fight or flight responses, where he's either, you know, suddenly panicked about where he is, so he starts to run, or he feels confronted, so begins to attack. And it gets to a point where Huey has to kind of step in, because he is moving in to effectively kill Daphne after causing like huge amounts of a few deaths in the hospital and chaos in the hospital overall. And I just thought it was, you know, this was really kind of quite poignant, because it's almost like he's aging really quick with the V compound, as I say, because it's almost like some form of dementia. And in the end, Huey and Daphne and Hugh Senior, you know, is effectively put to sleep like a pet, or through, you know, euthanized, effectively, assisted death, like you have, for example, in Switzerland. So, you know, really kind of poignant, this arc. I wasn't expecting it to play out like this and see the death of Huey's dad, just because even though he's been an off-screen presence, he has been that presence, mainly from the first season, you know, primarily, but you've had snippets or references back to him. And of course, then, you know, in the last few episodes here for season 4.
Yeah. Well, I think what makes the whole scene so poignant is because Hugh Senior has always been this quiet, unassuming guy who, yes, he stood up and took care of his son when his wife left, but he just seemed like a very simple character that's just willing to get through the day and get to the next day. You know, he gets excited about them going out to get him a bottle of Snapple. You know, that's how mundane he is. He gets obsessed by, you know, what type of pizza roll he was going to buy for dinner. That's the things that account for his day. And here he is, hooked up on Gen V, not knowing what's happening. Huey points out the reason why he's going through these problems with his brain is because he had gone past the point of brain death when he was given Gen V. So some of his brain had already died, like a dementia patient. So he is going through that and experiencing that over and over again and not knowing what's happening. So seeing this really mild-mannered character getting these Gen V powers completely unable to use them. You know, if he'd been going to Godalming University and having these incidents, they may have covered it up, as Vought did for many students that were in that university. But here he is, an older man who should have died, being given Compound V and not knowing how to use it, and, you know, taking out the violence on Daphne. You know, it's awful to see, because it's the character that he is. You know, there's a moment of hope early on in the episode. We were joking a couple of episodes ago, Chris, that I was saying the reason that they were bringing in Daphne was because, well, Simon Pegg's quite a big actor. He's in, you know, some of the biggest movies in the world, so maybe they can't get him in for the future, so they bring in another parent to replace him. There's a moment of hope earlier on in the episode where you're going, well, okay, actually, they've given him G. There's only 2 seasons left. Maybe they'll have him as another superpowered member of the team. But, you know, it's the boys. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm so glad they cast Simon Pegg back in the days. Now, we know there is the link between the boys and Simon Pegg and all that. But for me, this was so interesting because it's just really gave Simon Pegg his ability to be the actor that he is and really be that character that actor that he has the chops to be. Mm-hmm. So I loved him since Shaun of the Dead, and this is just him really kind of leaning into that.
Absolutely.
But absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great, isn't he? We loved him all the way back to Spaced. Been such a great character. And also really cool that he actually turns around to Huey and calls him Wee Huey, my Wee Huey, which is what the character was called in the boys' comic books as well. So he actually gets to say that out loud in the episode as well.
Yeah, that's my protagonist moment. So Darick, what's your protagonist moment?
My boys' moment is kind of their manipulation to get Stan Edgar back in the ranks of the boys. He almost joins the boys, sort of. It's a team up, right? So Stan Edgar in a low to medium security prison, I guess, after being sent there effectively because of Victoria last season, and Billy has a plan to get Stan Edgar out. This is the connection, as we said, to Gen V. He should be aware of the fact that there is a virus out there that can kill soups. They want to use Stan to find where Victoria would have been working on the virus that she stole from Godalming University at the end of last season. So they go in with almost a Hannibal Lecter-like offer for him, that he's able to get out of prison and he'll have a full pardon from the president. Robert Singer has signed off that he will get a full pardon. And even though he doesn't take up that offer, Billy thinks on his feet and realizes the other thing that was important to him was family, was Victoria and Zoe, her daughter. And Billy tells him that not only will you get a full pardon, we'll make sure that you get custody of Zoe so you can take care of her, unlike her mother who shot her up with
Exactly.
V.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those moments, like, I always loved the character of Stanley Edgar in this show, played by the wonderful Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah,
and
he's so good, isn't he?
He's really good, and it's just this kind of cameo back in, and you're like going, oh, I love that kind of dynamic and that tone. You know, he's got such a great put down turn of phrase, like after he comes out and he's like, do you have a towel I can sit on?
Yeah.
You know, not wanting to grubby his suit by putting his arse on the back seat of the car that he's about to head west to go to Newman's kind of country house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And just, you know, what a delightful surprise that you're here, Annie January. You know, it's just really, really good turn of phrase. It just adds that classy dynamic here, even though he was the CEO and the face of evil, in a sense.
Absolutely.
With Vought.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoyed him coming back here. I loved, you know, actually that they do put him in absolute jeopardy here. Given it's the boys, given what happens in these episodes, he could genuinely have been caught by one of those zombie sheep, you know?
Yeah, they do. They really do put him in jeopardy in the episode. And interestingly, I know this is the protagonist moment, but interestingly, Stan Edgar does get away at the end, and not through this offer that the boys give him. Victoria explodes the police officer who's escorting him back to prison. She explodes his head and frees Stan Edgar back out into the wild again. So we may be seeing Giancarlo Esposito back in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Unfortunately, Chris had to step out, so myself and John are going to continue the podcast on. Everything's fine, just a little thing to take care of. So let's move on to our antagonist moment for the episode.
You're not the real heroes. I'm the real hero.
John, what's your antagonist moment from the episode?
It's kind of Ryan gets sinister again. You know, there's last few episodes here where it feels like he has wanted to escape the weight and claustrophobia of being Homelander's son. You know, he's gone to Billy Butcher here, sort of making a connection with Billy. But here, with the events of Homelander going back to his past, whilst it's not how I would have expressed it, there's a weight that's been lifted from Homelander to the point that he saw that he was being controlled by others and recognizes on reflection that he's been doing the same with Ryan.
Exactly.
And wants to allow Ryan to be himself and explore who he is.
Yeah.
And it comes off initially as being quite altruistic. He wants to help people. As he wants to help Adam's assistant, Adam being the director, kind of lead creator for Vought TV and movies, you know, who earlier in the episode has been trying to get him to do his first TV show effectively, which is a teen school sort of show, which Ryan doesn't really want to do. But, you know,
just quickly, I do like that Homelander said it's fine if Ryan doesn't want to do it, and then tells Adam to give him his black credit card, and Adam gives him his wallet, and then he tells him to give the keys of Adam's car to Ryan. Ryan takes them, and what I love about it is the next scene when the two of them are walking down the hallway together, Ryan still has his key to his car and his wallet. I thought it was Homelander doing it as a joke. There's no jokes with Homelander, but I thought Ryan would at least give them back to Adam before he left the room. But now he has a car and a black credit card. Yeah.
Exactly. But I like how this kind of morphs really into something quite sinister, where, you know, going from I want to help people, and him asking Adam to effectively be polite and to apologize to his assistant for how he has treated her. You know, it gets kind of increasingly awkward where then Adam says, you know, go down on your knees and apologize properly, because, you know, Homelander can hear the heartbeats, whether it's Adam as being genuine or not. And in the end, you know, still feel he's not being sincere, and so tells Adam's assistant to effectively slap him again and again. And we just get this fairly sort of sinister smile leaking across Ryan's face as he realizes that the power that he has here. And you're just like wondering, you know, where is Ryan's headspace here? Is he just seesawing between what he wants, what he think he wants, how something's being sort of sold to him as being really good. But here it's almost like how we saw the Seven early on in season 1, seemingly helping, but ultimately being threatening and a bit sinister with it, and potentially, you know, with the potential to kill there as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
You just don't know what's going to happen here in this moment to Adam.
Yeah.
And whilst there is the pullback from any kind of death and murder, just the general feeling of that potential being there is really, really good.
Yeah, and really what Homelander has exposed to Ryan is the power he can have. If he wants to help people, he can help people, but it doesn't have to be you tell someone what you want them to do. You can also force them to be more and more aggressive, and that might set the right message in their head.
Exactly.
You know, it's about how Homelander's packaged this to Ryan, really. And overall, that conversation they have in the corridor where Homelander says to him, as you say, I've learnt that I was doing the same thing to you as the scientist did to me in the past. From now on, there's no rules for you and none for me either, is what Homelander says. And again, in the back of your head, when you hear Homelander say something like that, you're going, oh no, what does this mean? There's no more rules for Homelander? There were rules before? What was he following? And he says to Ryan, you're the only person whose opinion matters to me in the entire world. From now on, nothing else exists on this planet other than me and you. And this is father-son team up. If he gets Ryan more on side, and that's what he's trying to do here, manipulating him to his side. Ryan had a major problem with him because Ryan effectively murdered the stuntman accidentally killed, I guess, the stuntman at his first save, and got no remorse from Homelander for it. Now Homelander's packaging up something for him that can sell him on the idea that the two of them, father and son, can lead the world with their powers. It's interesting in him questioning the TV show that Adam's trying to pitch to him. Ryan goes, why are you trying to set up this teen training school for other people? You know, in his mind, he's powered. He's got his powers. He isn't going to school. He isn't becoming a student to learn how to use his powers. So he's going, why are you packaging this all up? This doesn't make any sense to me. So I just thought that was an interesting question from Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's that whole move of Ryan seemingly possibly becoming on side with Billy, but now the pendulum seems to be swinging back with Homelander because, as you say, the way it's been sold to him by Homelander.
Yeah.
Whether there's any less manipulation from Homelander's side here, it's just the attractiveness of the offer, I guess, ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. For my 7 moment, my antagonist moment for the episode, I want to talk about the V52 Expo. I know we made a couple of references earlier on, but it's the whole packaging of the V52 Expo that really gets me. D23 is the festival, effectively, that Disney has every year, based on the fact they were founded in 1923. So they do a festival every year showing off all of the new product, all the new stuff for all of their fans, you know. And this is clearly supposed to represent what Disney and Marvel have been doing every year at San Diego Comic-Con, their big stage presentation where they do their plan 5 years ahead and tell you all their movies and TV shows. And as we mentioned earlier on, it's a time of year that's really exciting for us as podcasters for that type of content and those type of shows. We get really excited about it. But here you can see the other side of it. You can see how Vought sells themselves to their shareholders and to their audience. They even use the similar lines that we see from San Diego Comic-Con of by fans, for fans, you know?
Yeah.
But among them all, I think there's just some really funny moments. You know, we mentioned Tech Nice being on stage about a reboot happening for his movie because it's been a whole year since the last one.
Yeah.
There's a moment when A-Train comes up on stage to talk about the movie that we saw. Clips of it last week. We saw Will Ferrell last week and the week before. Will Ferrell in this blindside version of A-Train's story, where you can tell there's a little bit of sick come up in his mouth, where he's saying, "This movie that's so close to my heart, I can't wait for you all to see it." And then they have a little dig at a Secret Invasion, where A-Train says about his new TV show Double Standards, which he says it's just finishing doing the reshoots of the reshoots, making it the most expensive TV show that the Vought Network has ever produced, which means it must be great, everybody. Yay! Which is a little bit of a dig on, unfortunately, Secret Invasion, which is known as the most expensive and least watched of the Marvel TV shows.
Yeah. Oh, well, never mind.
Hey, not everybody likes everything that's out there, right?
And just shows you, you know?
Yeah.
It's referenced in the boys.
It's referenced
so
in the
there
boys.
must be some good in it.
Absolutely. And then the other big thing that happens in the episode in the V52 Expo is we get to see 2 of the major characters from Gen V. We get to see the return of Sam and Kate from the series. Sam still quite significantly enthralled of Kate. He seems like he's just still doing her bidding almost and saying the words that she wants him to say. They're making their own comedy, Freaky Friday style comedy, where they swap brains into each other's body, which, again, given what happened in Gen V, is quite an interesting concept to turn into a comedy movie. But I loved seeing them back on here. Loved seeing them take that center stage in that moment on the stage in the V52.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's quite cool, wasn't it? Seeing Kate and Sam back there.
Yeah, for sure.
John, with Chris gone, do you want to take Chris's antagonist moment for the episode, for his 7 moment for the episode?
Yeah, it's I guess it's a fairly big one. It's Victoria Newman's farm and everything that's going on here in terms of trying to find the virus that's left, and that they come in. And actually, as we say, it's Victoria Newman's farm, but it's also Stan Edgar's.
It is Stan's, yeah.
He knows where she would go, and it has been converted into a sort of virology lab, but this is looking like the experiments have escaped, and indeed they have.
Yeah.
There's not really an awful lot left here, and importantly, that Dr. Samir is missing here.
Mm-hmm.
So the scientist who has been entrusted by Victoria Newman to use and look at the virus that was developed in Godolphin.
Yeah, she's looking to improve the virus because right now it's not capable of taking down a soup as big as Homelander. That's what she wants to create, and she couldn't create that with the previous scientist in Godolphin University. So she's turned to Dr. Samir here to try and do that. Just wanted to check something really quickly. Is that a joke from Stan Edgar when he arrives at this holiday home, this like third or fourth home that he has? That the reason he doesn't go there is because of the smell of the farm. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah,
okay. So I was wondering about that because he kind of goes, "Oh, the smell," as he gets out. But I guess countryside isn't the place for Stan Edgar at all. I have to say when this scene opened and they went into the virology lab and everything was emptied, all the things were gone, I was almost convinced that this was going to be the rest of our Gen V characters, the other four that are on the run. I thought they'd come in, stolen all the equipment, gotten the virus back effectively because they were aware of it from the end of the first season of Gen V, that's where they would be going. They're on the trail to find this virus, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting moments here, I guess, with this farm walk from hell that happens as they start to try and find Dr. Samir. But we come across souped up chickens, which I thought was hilarious because as they're searching the farm looking for Dr. Samir, they find this body of, again, one of his assistants in the chicken barn with a hole through his midriff, as then one of the other security detail gets taken out by effectively a flying chicken.
Absolutely, and the guy who had the hole through them had 2 eggs laid.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, they started laying eggs there. So, and then it just
gets crazier and
crazier. It gets crazier and crazier. We have a V'd up bull and then V'd up flying sort of vampiric sort of sheep. It almost reminded me it almost reminded me of that New Zealand horror movie of zombie sheep.
I was thinking exactly the same. Yeah, Black Sheep.
Which I thought was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. In fairness, I was thinking watching the episode, I was going, are these V'd up sheep too much for me? Have they gone too far here? And they must have been on the writer's minds as well, because Frenchie reminded me that they had V'd up gerbils in the first season. I think it was first or second season. So we've seen this before. We've seen animals.
And that was their mistake, was starting their experiments with gerbils or hamsters and V. So I kind of liked how it ramped up the crazy here with the V'd up farm animals. We see earlier on Billy releasing one of the experimental bunnies from the lab, and then seeing that the bunny is dead, actually. With, again, what looks like kind of 2 kind of worm things coming out of its side. And as I say, I looked at that and you're kind of going, okay, so are they similar to the worms that were coming out the mouth of Victoria Newman's child?
The tentacles,
Those kind of tentacles.
Yeah.
And therefore, is it similar to what we're seeing with Billy Butcher? Is this a sort of foreshadowing of what Billy is to expect? Because all we're hearing from Billy is that by him taking the V compound, he's just actually accelerated the time when he's going to die. And so is this how he will go out? It will be kind of almost like an explosion of some form of tentacle out of his body.
Do you think it's something to do with the Homelander version of Compound V that he's giving to people? Because he gave it to Zoe, Newman's daughter, and she's got the tentacles coming out of her mouth.
Yeah.
I presume Billy, the strain that Billy got was from Frenchie, he says. So is that connected to Homelander's version of Compound V?
Maybe.
It's just because in this episode we see Hugh Sr. getting Compound V and he doesn't have any tentacle connections at all.
Yeah,
although that was definitely Homelander's stock.
Was, yeah.
So, yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know, and I don't know why this sort of similar look is being seen now, like with the rabbit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speculating around that's what inside Billy Butcher, but something killed Ezekiel, and also then just having seen Victoria Newman's daughter in the first episode. And again, maybe it's just foreshadowing that this is some kind of dominant strain in the V compound of how it works. So I guess we'll have to see, but ultimately they are held up in one of the barns with the flying meat-eating sheep, and they see that there's only one syringe left. They do find Dr. Samir, so they bait one of the bodies so that the sheep will take them and then hopefully will die of the virus as well.
Exactly. It's the one final vial.
But there is that question of, do they escape with this kind of approach? Or is the single syringe left so valuable that they're going to have to risk it and try and make a run for it without any form of kind of baiting and killing the sheep? They're just going to have to make a run for it and hope for the best, of which Stan is like, they're going to get me because, I'm old.
Absolutely, but I love that moment because it's finally when it all gets broken down. Billy's willing to sacrifice absolutely everybody, whether they're friends or whether they're soups or whether they're enemies. He's willing to sacrifice absolutely everybody for this one shot at taking out Homelander. We also, we hear them debate it all together as to whether they're going to go do it exactly as he said. Stan Edgar's going to go, no, if we're going to go for a run for it, then I'm dead straight away. So why would I be in on that plan? The one question I absolutely loved of the whole thing was when they were saying, how does the virus transmit to other people? And they're told it's through semen, saliva, and blood. And then they say they're going to inject one of the dead scientists. And Frenchie goes, but he's in no state to have sex with the sheep as he kind of pass it on. And everybody just kind of looks at him going, the blood?
I know. I did like that. And Mother's Milk going, I've got hives here, as he's trying to, sort of break it down and calm everyone down after Billy has effectively said, look, you're all expendable to me. He goes, like, I've got hives here. And he lays some home truths on everyone. But with Billy, he says, Billy, you're a mofo, but with a heart, like, get a grip of yourself.
Exactly.
You're not as bad as what you're saying here.
Exactly.
But ultimately, they do manage to escape. A few of the security detail do get taken out, but importantly, it seems as though Dr. Samir is taken by the sheep before they actually die. And it's only later that we see that Butcher has hidden Samir, removed one of his legs from the knee down, as evidence that he was taken by the psychotic sheep, but so that he can make more of the virus. And he is taking the control here to try and create and manufacture more of the virus. So he has the power to control these soups, because for him, Newman is equally a target.
Yeah, absolutely.
The conversations he's having with Joe Kessler is about taking out all soups, because he's trying to justify to him, well, Kamiko is a good soup, she can do her job. Starlight, can kill her if need be, effectively. It is also looks like that Chris was right, and that Joe Kessler is a figment of Billy Butcher's imagination
That's what
or,
it seems like, doesn't it?
memories.
Yeah, it
from-
seems like it, doesn't it? Because, you know, that scene where he's on the bench in the public, and Chris was kind of going, unless I see him talking to somebody else, then I'm convinced this is somebody else in Billy Butcher's mind. And I thought they'd staged that quite well. They have him outside in the park and they're chatting away. But then he starts talking about the individual information that only Billy Butcher really would know about all the rest of the people that are in his group. There's files, of course, and there's stuff that you'd know, but it's so recent that it's happening that Joe Kessler spouting that stuff back to Billy about each of the members of the team feels like it can only come from Billy's mind. But then at the end, when he's telling Dr. Samir that he needs to use him for the virus, he says, "We'll take care of you. You'll do it for us," and looks at where Joe Kessler should be. And then you see Samir trying to look and see who he's looking at.
Exactly.
So it's really in the eyes of Dr. Samir that tell you that Joe Kessler isn't there at all.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, really, really good little action sequence here. Again, with Stan Edgar, with Victoria Newman, it was kind of an interesting team up here.
It was.
And yeah, one that I think just played out quite nicely for me, to be honest.
Yeah. It is funny, isn't it? We were talking in the last episode about the seriousness of this season that seems to be more serious and everybody's going through much deeper things, it seems, this season. And then a scene like this comes in with flying killer sheep and it seems completely incongruous. And then you think back on all the stuff we've seen over the last few seasons, you know, everything from the exploding whale, the dolphin going through the front window of a car, you know, the sex scenes with the deep and octopuses, you know, there's been octopi, sorry. There's been so much craziness in all the shows. The gerbil, of course, as Frenchie mentions, you know, there's so much craziness. And then it's probably because we're 5 episodes into the show and there hasn't been a crazy scene like flying killer sheep before.
Absolutely.
So it seemed a bit out there, but there is definitely precedence in the show so far. So we go on to our outstanding moments, John.
Yeah. Mine is continuing on the A-Train and Ashley alliance here, but more that we have here A-Train admitting to Ashley that he's the leak of the footage showing that you know, the guys were innocent from Team Starlight.
Yes.
And so on. I kind of like this because actually the thing I did quite like by the V52 Expo is just that, you know, you have all this razzmatazz going on, but in the wings, you have a number of different conversations happening between different people, such as Cameron Cole and the Deep and so on. And one of them is this with A-Train coming up to Ashley, effectively getting increasingly sort of spooked by Sister Sage and her investigation as to who leaked this footage and him then admitting.
Yeah, the footage didn't just run itself out there, did it?
No, exactly. Like, it's all too close to comfort.
Yeah.
But it leads, to my mind, the best line of the season from Ashley, because, again, it is a fan expo. It is connected to Disney in a sense, or that sense of it, which also includes Star Wars. And she effectively says, after he's told her, and that, like, we're in this together, you need to protect me, you're embroiled in this as well. Yeah. And she literally says it as it is. You know, I took one dump in Homelander's toilet. I didn't sign up for the Rebel Alliance. And I have to say, when she said this, all my Christmases came at once. It was equally sort of just that dig at Star Wars, but which I love, but equally it was crude. It was just the whole randomness of the situation and how kind of obnoxious it was, as we'd kind of discussed in the previous one, that somehow A-Train is webbing her into this alliance and, you know, I've got your back, you've got my back over stealing V versus putting a floater in Homelander's toilet, or now in this case being the leak of evidence that would completely disprove everything that is being messaged in social media and from Vought News. So I kind of really like this. And interestingly, one of those other conversations is where the newsreader from Vought News is saying, well, I've got to attack our side as well, just to show that there's some balance, even though in a sense maybe it's half-hearted, or
to pretend there's some balance.
It's to pretend that there's some balance. So I kind of love this from a number of points, but to me, it is the line of the season so far.
Absolutely.
This from Ashley.
That's a great line, isn't it?
And that's why it's in my outstanding moment.
Excellent. Yeah, really like that. It does make me question, though. I do think that Sage knows A-Train's responsible just because of her wording there on it didn't run itself out of there, did it? Now, A-Train. I think she knows, and the reason she's not saying it is kind of to the point of some of the feedback that we've had so far, that Sage has an ulterior plan that she's trying to build that against Homelander, that she's trying to set up a couple of people around her. I don't think she wants to turn in A-Train for punishment for what he did, because she knows, seeing how quickly Homelander reacts to anybody that goes against him, A-Train would be dead the second she did.
Yeah.
So I think she's trying to build up potentially a group around her that when she has her plan in place, A-Train can be involved in the plan, but she's not willing to turn him over right now, I think.
Well, that's it. It's interesting because I kind of agree. I think she knows. Is she keeping him there for protection, like he would be the bigger threat, so that she can throw him under the bus if need be?
Yeah, maybe.
Just comes out with that. Is it that actually, like we see here in V52, that there is black at it,
Oh, God, yeah.
So it's Sage, A-Train, and Black Noir.
Yeah.
And you kind of see her expression, and, she is the cleverest person in the world.
Yeah.
And they are possibly not that impressed with how Vought runs its expos, what actually they want her to do.
Yeah.
Like this, it's demeaning and so on.
Absolutely.
And she's not totally bought in because of her intelligence.
Yeah, I absolutely meant to mention that in my point about V52. The fact that they have the Deep and Cameron Cole, the two whitest of white characters, presenting this brand new team up of two characters that identify as black and one that doesn't particularly identify, being Black Noir because it's behind a mask. So they're setting all of this up, and the way they're talking about it from their terms, about how woke and wonderful the company of Vought is, without any input from the black characters, is so demeaning, as you say, to how Sage is thinking. And then it goes into that whole advertising thing where they're saying that a white person that sees the Deep's new movie will see him carrying one product that appeals to a white person, and then they've already defined what product will appear to a black person that's watching the exact same scene, and it will present them with the advertising purposely built for them. You could just see everybody cringe at the thought of that this is something that people are already doing in advertising. That content creators for marketing companies are able to create various versions of their products that will appeal to different segments of the audience. So having someone like Vought in control of that, who are able to automatically replace that on their Vought Plus streaming network, that it will just present products to the audience that they're seeing from their racist point of view in Vought as well. It just makes it, again, another great criticism of how marketing works for massive organizations like this.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. My outstanding moment is involving Cameron Cole as well. We mentioned his moment with the Deep. I thought their conversation back and forth, where effectively the Deep's pissed off at him for revealing the fact that he lost his job as the head of the security division on VNN. Cameron Cole saying, "Oh, I'll just do a retraction," and Deep going, "No, the damage is already done." So he's not willing to make up with Cameron Cole. And then later on, we hear that he's proposing that he's going to have sex with Cameron Cole's wife that evening as punishment for what Cameron's done. So what comes out of this is much bigger than I thought it was going to be, because throughout the episode, Cameron's making more and more enemies among the group. He also dumps Ashley, and Ashley is so irritated by this. The idea that Cameron Cole, this lowlife stand-in from Fox News, effectively from VNN network, would actually be turning her down on her advances. And he says because he wants a dominatrix, and that dominatrix has to be dominant of something, and she's no longer dominant. She's been knocked out of her power position in Vought. So we see it all come to a head right at the end, where Homelander brings the entire group of all the Supes, including Tech Knight and Sam and Kate from Godolphin University, the Guardians of Godolphin. They all get involved to stand side by side with Homelander, and he turns them into now this fighting force that aren't there to ask for apologies or apologize to the population. They are there to stand above humans, be in control, and the first moment they're asserting their control is taking out Cameron Cole.
Well, that's it. He says the Seven are no longer celebrities, but gods. Show me a little wrath. As then effectively Cameron Cole is killed off screen.
I guess so.
I'm thinking so.
I guess so. Everybody gets a good dig in and dig into him.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Little did Cameron Cole know when he was sort of dumping Ashley that would come up to bite him in the ass, effectively, with Ashley and the A-Train Alliance mobilizing in a way to put the leak onto him. So, I kind of really like this these little moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's Cameron's not a character that I feel anyway sorry for everything that he's done over the last 3 seasons of the show as well. So this is Cameron Cole's comeuppance, definitely. Again, as Chris isn't here, he did have an outstanding moment from the episode, and it is a very important moment that happens towards the end of the episode, where we see that Frenchie actually turns himself in for all of the violence and murders that he's done.
I know.
There's a text that Kimiko's sending over to him where she's saying to him that she doesn't know what's wrong, but she doesn't need to know. She can at least hold his hand through all the bad stuff that he's going through. He had that conversation with Starlight as well about, forgiveness and his former life as a Catholic, his hatred of the idea that you can be forgiven for all the bad things that you've done. And she's talking to him about it and saying, why haven't you told Kimiko about everything you've gone through? And he says, well, I'd hate the idea that she wouldn't be able to forgive me once she learns who I really am. And then he says, but I'd hate it more if she did forgive me for the things that I'd done as well.
Yeah, I believe in damnation, that there needs to be a penance here. Interesting stuff, really. And of course, he hands himself over or turns himself in at a local police branch at the desk, saying, I've murdered people.
Multiple murders. Big moment for Frenchie. I don't know
definitely
what happens to that character next week.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see it, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to talk about from the episode? Anything else that we haven't covered, John?
No, that's all from me, really.
I guess that's it. I guess we wrap up the expo there. Overall, then, what did you think of the episode itself?
Again, I really enjoyed this. I'd give it 4 Mr. Fuzzy Buzzies out of 5. I kind of like the craziness of the farm. I love the fact that they had Old MacDonald had a farm as the closeout to this. I love the little twist of effectively Billy having Samir held hostage and chopping off his leg so that he can create more of this soup killing virus. I love the connections with Godolphin, the V52 Expo. As you said, it's kind of like, that front of house coupled with the back of house goings on at this expo, the business and the entertainment. Really, really enjoyed that. I loved Ryan here. Again, I don't know whether it's going to be just a temporary seesaw or whether he's moving back into the clutches of Homelander, or whether he realizes that in the end it's just another subtle form of manipulation that he's doing here. So I like the fact that there has been consequences here in this episode of Homelander going back to the start, whether it's with Ryan or whether it's with then how Homelander sees the mission statement or vision of the Seven, which is, we're now gods. It with Ryan, it's you can do whatever you want because you're a god like me, like I can do whatever I want.
Exactly.
So it's really good stuff. I'm really looking forward to seeing the next few episodes to see how this plays out. Because again, it's only 3 more episodes to go, so a lot to get through, I think. But having said that, we do know there's a season 5. So.
Yeah, the final season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, for Mr. Fuzzy Buzzy is out of 5 for me.
Yeah, I really liked the majority of this episode. As I said, the wildness of the sheep, it took me out of it a little bit in this episode. But again, there's been moments like that throughout the whole series of The Boys. I think probably why is because seeing Huey's father go through the whole process of being brain dead at the beginning of the episode or at the end of last week's episode, going through the process of being fine and thinking that he can live a proper life. The suspicion that we had thrown on Huey's mom that she was an agent of Vought or doing something bad, Huey's dad actually confirms all the story that she told Huey was absolutely correct. She did try and get in contact with him. Yeah. She left for those reasons when he was 6 years old, and he shouldn't have stood in her way contacting Huey, all that stuff.
And also why he made her power of attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Confirming that it was because Huey would have let him explode like he did their childhood cat, Jar Jar. So I thought that was really interesting. And then the path of him getting getting powers, being unable to control what was going on, losing his mind, and then him having to be put down by Huey. I thought that was a really sad arc and a really interesting story that was there for Huey and his family overall. So well,
that's it. A lot going on in this episode again,
Exactly.
As I say, just that arc of Huey's father, massive, really.
Yeah.
Again, I think the realization here that Joe Kessler is not actually real.
Absolutely.
And is in the mind's eye of Billy, like his wife.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot going on.
Exactly. As there always is in The Boys. So much going on that I definitely think we need a pint down the local pub, John.
I think we do, as I hope do you, my fellow quizzers and fellow boys and girls. Welcome to the 5th installment of The Boys Season 4 Pub Quiz. We are on Episode 5 of Season 4 of The Boys, and so we are on to question 5 for this season's pub quiz.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Why did Huey's dad want to go to Paris?
Very good. We'll admit that we wrote this question while watching the episode for the first time and didn't realise how poignant a moment this would actually be towards the end of the episode. But John, do you want to get the question one more time?
Yes. Why did Huey's dad want to go to Paris?
Brilliant. That's the 5th question of 8. Hopefully you're gathering together all the answers. At the end of the season, send in all the correct answers to all 8 questions to us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Gen V goodies. We're going to go on to some feedback on last week's episode, on episode 4, from our wonderful fellow boys and girls. So first up on our feedback for last week's episode, Coffee and Vodka sent in an email. He said, "Greetings, fellow flash-fried defenders. I gave this one a bit of breathing room as it seems to be a clear demarcation, kind of a phase 2 where all the setting and resettling has been put aside in favour of a definitive go hard or go home endgame that no one told MM and the boys about. Can only hope their individual tangents quickly subside before they become subplots of their own show. Butcher's cast of mental buddies, currently being Becca and Negan, as well as his sudden secondary mutation tie, Homelander's solidification of purpose for drawing most of my interest. Annie's hero journey from facing her antithesis in Firecracker to her possible eventual boss fight with Sage is hitting all the posts, while MM seems to be not exactly backburnered, but put into a supporting role. Huey, though, like Homelander, is finally coming into his own more purposeful identity. So much more and so deep. Speaking of, it's nice to see the Deep's consistency against the tide of change which has become this season. Can hardly wait to see those who remain of the Godu crew make their appearance, R.I.P. Chance. Do you think this will take on the comic book plot with Homelander in the White House, or do you think they'll zag that zig? 5 super senior Hueys, set up sacrificial crackers, and fudged up homecomings out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka. Thanks for that, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, good stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Not entirely sure around the White House, whether we'll see Homelander in the White House. I think we'll need Chris for that one, at least from my side.
Yeah, look, I know of the comic book storyline. I think it's aiming towards that. I don't know whether we actually will see him in the White House at the end of the series, but, the threat on Robert Singer, the current president, and whether his head will just be exploded at the end of the series.
Well, yeah.
There's definitely that there, and there's definitely the piece with Newman and Homelander and Sage working together to put a superhuman in the White House, which at the moment seems to be Newman, but whether people will accept Homelander just walking across the threshold and taking power as president, I'm not sure. In this universe, he's not actually standing for president, but I think the way around it will be to have Newman as president at the end of the series in that really kind of dark term before we go into the final season. That may be the way they'll do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah, and it'll be interesting seeing Annie's sort of journey with Firecracker as well, given their history.
Yeah.
But also, I think Firecracker's journey with Sage is also going to be interesting here as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're probably rubbing each other up the wrong way quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that she's the antithesis of Sage because, she's an idiot who speaks to idiots to rally them around, and Sage just uses her intelligence, right? So that's the big difference. Although, that said, Firecracker is using her intelligence to dumb everything down for the lowest common denominator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She can distill it into the most off-topic lowest common denominator ever.
Exactly. Great stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Over on our Facebook group, we had a post from Jamie Lawson who said, I was so totally wrong about the poker harpoon. Looks like Ambrosius is safe for another week. Also, Simon Pegg isn't going to be played by a dummy. Agreed, Jamie.
Yes, I think we see in episode 5, definitely Simon Pegg here. We were just questioning the amount of time that Simon Pegg was asleep in the bed for a couple of weeks. That was shown quite a lot. So maybe they just had him in bed for a couple of hours, maybe.
Exactly, just loads of takes.
Yeah.
For those scenes.
Yes, but he is alive. He is there. Or at least he was alive and was there for episode 5 at least. Yeah.
Ambrosia's touchy-feely suckers are around for the deep for another week.
Yeah.
If only he would reciprocate.
Exactly.
Thanks, Jamie. Also, Sam Lowe over on Facebook says, I was cackling in my car when you talked about the award ceremony for Anthony Starr. Also, I think the wormy things in Butcher came from his dose of V and not the temp V. It was a bit of a throwaway line, but when Huey says in the alley there's enough for Butcher and his dad, Butcher says that he tried that months ago and all it did was speed up his deadline. He thinks it gave him his wormy murder powers. Maybe that's what the gooey black mass is too in his brain that Homelander saw. I guess we'll find out when poor Hugh Sr. wakes up from his coma hijack.
Yeah, well, we saw that here in episode 5 of what happens to Hugh Sr. after taking his V. So yeah, that's it was a bit of a horrible fate for Hugh Senior.
Yeah, exactly.
And is Butcher on that path now? Is that what's going to happen to him as the V takes over his body as well?
Who knows?
Because he said he took some actual V. That's a really good point, Sam. He says he took some actual V a couple of months ago, which sped up this timeline to death. It's not just the temp V that he took. It's also this additional V that he tried to take to correct the problem that he got from the temp V. So thanks for that, Sam. Definitely have a look out at Butcher in the next couple of episodes and see what happens to him there. We also got a message in from David Mr. Writer who says, so by far the best episode of the season. Just when I thought, what else could they do after season 3? They found a way to outdo themselves. I like this episode because not only the action, the suspense of each scene really kept you glued in and left off on a mini cliffhanger. I like the psychology of it all, kind of digging into Homelander's past. I wish they did dive a little deeper, but this did give us a good look into that window. Can't wait for next week, and I definitely want to know Butcher's new powers. Seems like it's a parasite that keeps him alive in order for it to survive. Side note, once again, round of applause to Anthony Starr. My goodness, what a man.
Thank you, David, Mr. Writer. Anthony Starr, fantastic.
Really is.
Absolutely so good in episode 4.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed him. And I mean, just consistently since this show started.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's a really interesting interview with Eric Kripke this week where he was saying that it was actually Anthony Starr's idea to come up with the way that he entered his childhood home, I guess, the lab with all the other, with all the scientists in there, that originally in the script it was he went in and killed everybody, just was really evil and killed everybody. And Anthony Starr said, no, Homelander would be the type of person that would make you guess whether he's going to be evil or going to be nice. He walks in with the cake to begin with, and you're kind of wondering how far it's going to go. What's the thing that's going to trigger him?
Yeah.
And that was all Anthony Starr's idea, which is really interesting. Again, he knows this character so well.
Yeah, great stuff.
But I know, Sam mentioned as well, we joked about him on stage and them showing any of these scenes as for his Emmy Awards speech, but there's been so many calls for it saying, the performance that he's done in the show this season, especially in episode 4, is something that should be award worthy. But again, I'm just not sure whether you can show any of the scenes that justify that award.
Well, that's true.
On the stage.
But yeah, they need to think about that. I think Butcher's new powers, I mean, for me, are certainly going along the route that Chris had identified with the fringe X-Men. Well, Wormy, I guess.
You know what? I can't remember.
No,
it
I can't remember it off the top of my head. But yes, I'm kind of thinking, oh my goodness, it is kind of riffed from X-Men. Of course, it's not just riffed from X-Men. It's kind of it's the devil and the angel on his shoulders, really. Yeah, exactly. Is what the worms seemingly are doing.
Exactly. Well, it could be. We'll see again as the series goes on. We'll see more of that. Heather Wallace says, okay, I spent most of that episode with my hands over my eyes. I don't know what was worse, Homelander torturing scientists or Sage's DIY lobotomy. Huey slashing and stabbing his opponent was also gruesome, and I couldn't watch Annie attack Firecracker because she was so stupid to do it in front of the cameras. Have I just forgotten how tense and gory this show is? I can't wait to see what happens with Huey's dad. I thought at first they'd gotten Simon Pegg on set by saying, you'll get to nap the whole time, but now he's going to get superpowers. Ooh, well, that didn't actually work out.
Well, he does.
The way we thought. He does.
And we've seen kind of similar ones, I guess, in Gen V, where people that vibe, or indeed like the Flash, that can vibe through solid walls. But I just like the fact how he's unable to control them, to be honest. And certainly just him stood in the middle of the hospital bed as the man explodes.
Exactly.
Is, quite gruesome. And like you, Heather, it is. Those scenes with Homelander, you just don't know how it's going to go, how gruesome, how sort of shocking it's going to be. Similar to you, just sort of not being able to look at the screen because of the tension and the potential for just absolute horrendous torture from Homelander. And indeed, Sage's lobotomy, anything to do with eyes is like, oh God.
Absolutely. And it just shows you, and to the point that Heather made here, it just shows you how much was going on in that episode. We hardly even mentioned Huey and Kamiko teaming up, and Huey having his first human kill. He killed a guy right in front of him, cutting his throat, and the blood spraying on his face. Like that in itself, if that had been an episode or happened in an episode in season 2 or something like that, that would be a major point. But with so much blood and so much action going on in this episode, we almost forgot to mention it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Heather.
Yeah, thanks, Heather.
Also, Dr. Bob Phillips on episode 4 says, episode 4, season 4, and the show has shifted gear from a parody of the superhero genre with digs at reality into a full-on political satire with Clockwork Oranges and Big Brothers. The doublespeak gets shouted loudly with the convicted paedophile inventing caged kids, the man who kills those who don't follow his orders, killing those who followed orders, and lobotomy being the only way to have peace in this world. Looking forward to more punk versus Nazis next week. Excellent stuff, Dr. Bob. And actually, it's a really interesting point, and I hadn't really thought of it like that, that Sister Sage's DIY lobotomy is the only thing that takes her out of this moment. In effect, I guess it's having that edible or something like that just takes you out of the pressures, the nonsense of of everything that's going on.
Well, you know what it's like when you've watched, CNN for 24 hours or Sky News for 24 hours or, just a news service cycle over and over again. And there's sometimes just when I go, oh God, I wish I could just shut my brain off from thinking all of these horrible things that are going to happen in the future. If all comes to pass, all these terrifying things that the news are telling me are happening, if they all come to pass, it's going to be a nightmare. Maybe I'll just lobotomize myself or just turn on some random comedy show.
It becomes numbing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the news cycle in any sense is it just repeats, and unless something massive happens where they can then be immediately on it, but it's like it's just a repetition. It's of no use to have the news headlines on rinse and repeat all the time.
Exactly.
And even when things do happen or they think they've got a scoop, what's the editorial delay to make sure that it's verified?
Well,
and a lot of them don't do that now.
Yeah.
It's just broadcast first, maybe think or do some editorial stuff later.
Yeah, or
it would seem.
Or say it might, or it can, or maybe, or
yeah,
it
and then it
seems
just
like.
brings in this whole sort of real nothingness language of ifs, buts, and maybes.
Exactly.
But so then it becomes all about speculation until it's verified, and by that stage, if it is unverified, the damage is done.
Exactly.
And it's pretty grim.
It is.
The 24-hour news cycle, I think.
But we've also noticed, definitely, and we've talked about it before, that when you're watching Irish news, in a very small country like ours, there isn't enough scary news to put on a full half-hour show. So they have two stories that are local in Ireland and then reach out anywhere across the world for anything scary that's happening, whether it be like someone's house falling down, one person's house falling down, or whether it be some weather event in a very far-off country. They want to have a half-hour of scary news to keep you scared. So, yes, sometimes I do want to lobotomize myself watching that. But also a really good call out there. We called out the firecracker being a paedophile who's accusing her opposition of having kids trapped in cages. But what we didn't call out is Homelander taking out the people who followed orders, when in fact usually he takes out people who don't follow his own orders. That's a really good call out from Dr. Bob, that effectively all of these scientists are just people that followed all the orders. Yet if someone doesn't follow Homelander's orders, they're likely to get their head laid off as well. So really interesting double standard
almost.
It's
not about following orders. It's about who has come up with the orders that they ought to follow.
Exactly. Great stuff. Excellent feedback, as always. Please keep sending your feedback into us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or into our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. A new spoiler post goes up every week as the episode airs, so you're welcome to hop in there and leave in your spoiler-filled thoughts for the next episode. You can also get in contact with us of loads of other ways. We're over on Threads. You can go over to Spotify if you listen to the episode over there. You can leave a comment or a rating as well, or you can leave a rating for us over on Apple Podcasts too.
Yes, and of course, as always, you can support us for a monthly amount over at patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, or for a one-off amount over at buymeacoffee.com/TVPI. Importantly, you can subscribe to the podcast and, of course, share the podcast, because sharing the podcast is sharing the love.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Sorry, Chris had to step out for the podcast this week. And one of the note that I didn't know about the last time we were recording, Chris actually is away for the next 2 weeks, so we won't see him on episode 6 or episode 7. He'll be back for the finale, though.
Excellent stuff. See you then, Chris. Fellow boys and girls, we'll be back next time with our chat all about The Boys Season 4, Episode 6, Dirty Business. And of course, the next question in our Season 4 The Boys Pub Quiz.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks so much for joining us. Speak to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow boys and girls, for joining us for this episode. Until the dirty stuff comes down the tracks next week. Keep watching, keep listening, and watch out for those lamb chops.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's the connection to Gen V, the virus from Gen V,
Certainly is,
playing straight into the boys like we had been told it was going to.
Developed at Godolkin.
Yeah.
For Godolkin. By
the
Godolkin.
Golgan.
Just do that one more time for Godolkin.
For Godolkin. By Godolkin.
Through the Golgan.
I don't even know what I was saying.
For Godolkin, by Godolkin.
For Godolkin.
All right.
For Godolkin. By Godolkin.
I'll just edit it some way to make that sound like Godolkin the second one because you still can't get it. It's the same word being said 3 times. How can you get it wrong?
I don't know. Godolkin.
Right.
Godolkin.
Yes, developed at Godolkin University.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you want me to say it again?
No, it's fine.
Fix it in post.
I can't. I got it wrong so many times.
Yeah, for the goal.
All right, just leave it. I'll edit it all out. It's grand.
Yeah, for Godolkin, by Godolkin.
Just leave it. Leave it. Leave it.